remember as a kid seeing Uncle Michael on stage and how loud that arena was. And the sound of the fans screaming. I just saw the love that they had for Michael and my family. It was a lifetime experience, or I should say, a defining moment in my life that I think I won't experience anything like that. Just having that first time experience on a set, but to portray my Uncle Michael.
Whenever Jafar Jackson talks about Michael, you can tell he remembers a very different side of him than the one the world usually saw. To millions of people, Michael Jackson was this larger-than-life superstar. But to Jafar, he was Uncle Michael, the person who spent time with the family, played with the kids, gave them memories they still laugh about today, and inspired Jafar long before he ever imagined portraying him on screen.
It was really a surreal, a spiritual moment at the same time. You know, spending all those hours in the makeup chair and thanks to the incredible Bill Corso, who's the head of makeup on the film, just that process of seeing me slowly transform into Michael was emotional.
When Jafar talks about Michael, he usually remembers the person before the superstar. To the rest of the world, Michael Jackson was this enormous figure. But Jafar remembers his uncle coming to Havenhurst, spending time with the family, playing games with the kids, and creating memories with them at Neverland. That personal side of Michael is something Jafar keeps coming back to, because it's the Michael he actually grew up knowing.
What are your memories of your uncle?
I remember just growing up and we would have family time. You know, Michael would come over to where I was growing up at Havenhurst, and we'd have some days where we'd all get together, play family game day. We'd have wonderful times at Neverland and just playing hide and go seek, eating as much candy, going on rides, watching movies. It was all fun.
And one of Jafar's favorite memories says a lot about what Michael was like with the kids in his family. One morning, Jafar wanted candy with breakfast. Michael heard him asking for some, and instead of giving him a piece, he told Jafar he could have the entire candy machine. And he actually meant it. Jafar ended up taking the whole machine home. Years later, it's still one of those stories he laughs about when remembering how generous and playful his uncle could be.
What's your favorite memory of your uncle?
Would probably be, I was in the kitchen and they're cooking a breakfast. And I wasn't craving breakfast, I wanted candy. And I remember my Uncle Michael coming out of the doorway to sit down to have breakfast. And I was saying, can I have candy? Is there a way I can get some candy? And he said, oh, of course, you can take the whole candy machine.
So you took the whole candy machine?
Yeah, it was like, it's big. So I actually took the whole candy machine home.
That's a good uncle, really.
Yeah, yeah.
But what Jafar admired about Michael went far beyond those childhood memories. He also looked up to the way Michael approached his work. Michael taught him that if you care about your craft, you keep working until you get it right and then try to take it even further. And Jafar admired what Michael did outside of music too, especially his charity work and the way he used his platform to push messages of love and unity.
I was reading this article about Michael Jackson, and it said that, you know, once he will make a song, he will keep on listening to that for the next 3 years or 4 years, and then he will say, okay, now is the time to release the song. And even now, when we play those cassettes, the audio quality is probably much more better than the music which is being produced today.
Such a perfectionist.
Yes, no, that's something I learned from him a lot, is being a perfectionist, just making sure you perfect your craft and try and get things to the next level, always trying to get better at something.
Exactly.
Practice makes perfect. So he inspired me in that way, and just creating the videos he did, just his humanitarian work with charity and giving back to people and just spreading the message of unity and love, and I think that's very important in today's world.
That respect became even deeper while Jafar was preparing to portray Michael. He created an entire room filled with books, old interviews, photographs, and handwritten notes. Whenever he was home, he would go back into that room and continue studying. Michael would write down what he wanted to accomplish, repeat affirmations, meditate on them, and even put those words on mirrors and ceilings so he would constantly see them. Jafar was so impressed by that mindset that he started using some of the same methods in his own preparation.
Through the process, what surprised me most, I would say, is I was allowed access to a lot of his personal notes, and I realized that he would do mantras, affirmations, and his belief in manifestation was was incredible. I didn't realize that about him until I really, really dived into it. Write everything he wanted to achieve. He'd write it down, he would repeat it. He'd even meditate for 30 minutes and just look at those mantras and repeat it back to back. He put on mirrors, he put on the ceiling. So you can see it every day, and it really was like his pursuit to greatness. So I applied that same work ethic and that same belief with how I was preparing, going towards shooting, and it was very incredible just to see what those notes were saying.
But Michael's influence on Jafar had started long before any movie role came along. Jafar grew up watching his videos and studying the way he moved simply because he loved Michael's performances. He had no idea that years later, all those hours spent watching his uncle would become part of preparing to portray him on screen.
I grew up loving, obviously, watching Michael's videos and studying his moves and things like that.
Once Jafar got the role, though, he knew watching performances wouldn't be enough. He started studying different periods of Michael's life and career, looking beyond the famous dance moves and performances. He paid attention to how Michael carried himself, how he changed over the years, and the choices he made. Jafar wanted to understand Michael first, because simply copying what everyone already knew wouldn't capture the person he remembered.
To emulate, for me, it all started with
and that meant trying to understand parts of Michael that even Jafar hadn't fully known growing up. His childhood memories gave him something most people could never have, but Jafar wanted to go deeper than mannerisms and movement. He wanted to understand what Michael thought and felt, so he spent time reading Michael's private writings, and detail was also part of what Jafar loved about Michael's performances. As he studied the old footage more closely, he noticed how Michael was always trying to give the audience something they didn't expect. A movement or transition could happen so smoothly that it almost looked impossible. Jafar believes Michael loved creating that mystery and making people wonder how he had done something. That sense of surprise was part of 5 years old. Music was always around him growing up, but watching Michael's Bad and Dangerous tours had a different effect on him. Jafar already knew he had rhythm, but seeing Michael perform showed him what could actually be done with it. Those performances became some of his earliest inspiration to explore his own ability to sing, dance, and perform.
I grew up around music every day, but it was really watching the tour footage from my uncles and particularly Michael with the Bad Tour and Dangerous Tour that really, I think, set it off for me at around 4 or 5 years old.
And because Michael meant so much to Jafar personally, portraying him was never going to feel like just another acting role. Jafar knew these moments also meant a lot to millions of people who grew up watching Michael. He wanted to get the movements right, but more importantly, he wanted people to feel the same energy and spirit that made Michael special. For Jafar, the only way to make audiences believe it was to fully believe it himself first.
I'm sure, especially in your first role, there's a little added pressure to get it right as you do these scenes.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a responsibility that you feel going into something this big in the scope and to tell it in a cinematic way. There's so many moments that I wanted to nail and make sure I had the true essence and that feeling. I had to feel it to make sure I believed in it first.
Jafar's memories show the Michael he and his family knew personally. And when that version of Michael has been questioned publicly, other members of the Jackson family have been just as willing to speak up and defend him. Jermaine has never been shy about defending Michael, especially when interviewers bring up the allegations against him. And when those accusations returned years after Michael's death, Jermaine's frustration was obvious. And when the interviewer suggested that people watching from the outside might still not know what to believe, Jermaine immediately pushed back. He pointed to what had actually happened in court and reminded him that Michael had been the only Jackson willing to challenge an interviewer over Michael. When Jackie, Tito, Marlon, and Taj sat down together, they were questioned about defending Michael without even watching the documentary being discussed. But the family pushed back on the idea that they needed a documentary to tell them who Michael was. They had known him for their entire lives. They remembered someone who cared deeply about children, wanted to make people happy, and constantly talked about bringing people together. So when they were asked directly whether they had ever known Michael to behave inappropriately with a child, their answer came immediately: absolutely not.
What do you want to say about your brother as this documentary is about to hit the country?
I want them to understand and know that this documentary is not telling the truth. There has not been not one piece of evidence that corroborates their story. And they're not interested in doing that.
Some would say, though, guys, it's hard for you to sit here and say the documentary isn't telling the truth when you haven't seen the documentary. Shouldn't you see the documentary,
I don't
Jackie?
care to say no, because I know my brother. I don't have to see the documentary. I know Michael. I'm the oldest brother. I know my brother. I know what he stood for, what he was all about, bringing the world together, making kids happy.
And he was never, in your opinion, abusive to children?
No, never.
Never inappropriate with children?
Never
in a sexual way?
No, in a sexual way.
And the people that really know him, they know the truth too.
And when the questions continued, Jackie, Tito, Marlon, and Taj didn't soften their position. They said the Michael being described in those accusations simply wasn't the person they knew. They also challenged the timing of everything, pointing out that Michael was no longer alive to sit down in an interview and answer the claims himself. Taj went even further and openly said he believed money was behind it. The interviewer could keep pressing them, but the family's position wasn't changing. They knew what they believed about Michael, and they weren't afraid to challenge accusations against him publicly.
He did not want to be the one, in his words, that harmed Michael Jackson. Do you not believe him when he says that?
I do not believe him when he says that because we know our brother. Michael wouldn't do anything like that. And then he waits until after the passing of Michael, 10 years later, to come out and state this. And they're still in court with the estate, suing them for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Michael's not here to defend himself.
So you think the only reason they're doing it is because Michael is no longer here? And you don't buy that they wanted to protect him and that's why under oath they lied for him?
No,
Nobody
Wade's
buys
never
that?
protected anyone in his life.
Does the whole family feel this way? I've seen the comments from the brothers, but I haven't heard anything from your sisters. Say the same thing that you were saying?
About this. Of course.
I think there's a fear as well to put more energy to it and more eyeballs to it. I think that's why my Aunt Janet hasn't said anything, because she doesn't want to make it any bigger.
Why do you think they're coming forward now?
Money.
You think it's all about money?
Well, it's all about money.
It's always been about money. I hate to say it, when it's my uncle, it's almost like they see a blank check, and because they've been taken care of their whole life, and I think that's the problem. These people are felt that they're owed something. You know, instead of working for something, they blame everything on my uncle.
But LaToya's situation was completely different, because an interviewer could confront her with her own past words about Michael. Years earlier, LaToya herself had publicly made accusations against him. She later took those statements back and said they came during a period when her then-husband and manager, Jack Gordon, was controlling and pressuring her. So when Barbara Walters brought Michael up directly, LaToya had to answer for what she had once said, and she didn't avoid it. She explained what she claimed had happened behind the scenes and made her current position completely clear.
Gordon gave me this piece of paper and he says, read this. He goes, you better say this, you say this.
Jack Gordon forced you to say that your brother was a pedophile. Did you think he was?
No, I did not. The courts have proven that too as well.
Why did Jack Gordon want you to say that your brother was a pedophile?
He had this hatred towards my brother that I can never explain to you why it was.
Just to make things very clear, you recanted your accusation. Are you sure today that your brother never had any undue relationship with a child?
Barbara, Michael is not. He is not.
He is not a pedophile.
No, he's not.
And Barbara didn't stop there. She also challenged LaToya over Michael's problems with medication, questioning why the family hadn't done more to help him. LaToya immediately pushed back and insisted that they had tried many times to intervene, but often couldn't get close enough to Michael to help. Then Barbara asked what responsibility Michael had if he was the one requesting those drugs. Again, LaToya didn't accept the premise without challenging it. Her argument was simple. Even if a patient asks for something, the doctor is still the medical professional in the room and has a responsibility to say no when giving it could put that patient in danger.
Your brother was a wonderful and sweet person, you say. But he was a drug addict.
Barbara,
he had 8 brothers and sisters. Couldn't anybody help him? Couldn't anybody intervene? Couldn't anybody do anything?
We tried many, many times to intervene, and we were kept away. My father tried more than anybody else. He would go almost every week and try to intervene.
Michael was a grown man. Does he bear no responsibility? Your brother asked for these injections.
Barbara, I can ask you for $1 billion, but you'll say, no, LaToya, I'm not giving it to you. They're doctors. This is going against their license, Barbara. You don't do things like that.
And for Taj, these conversations became even more frustrating after Michael was gone. Whenever he was asked about new accusations against his uncle, Taj kept coming back to the same problem. Michael could no longer answer any of it himself. Taj said watching Michael's legacy repeatedly come under attack had become exhausting for the family, but instead of simply saying he believed Michael, Taj challenged the way the accusations themselves were being discussed. He argued that inconsistencies and material from Wade Robson's legal proceedings deserved far more attention. His frustration was that accusations against Michael could spread everywhere, while information that challenged those accusations didn't always receive the same attention. And that was exactly why Taj felt someone from the family still had to speak up.
There is no libel or slander law to protect the dead. So my uncle has no countersuit. He's not here to defend himself. So if the timing matches, it's because they can print or say anything they want about Michael Jackson and there's no legal recourse.
You've had to hear your uncle's legacy tarnished and his standing downgraded. What effect has this had on the Jackson family?
It's tiring. It's really tiring. There's this, Wade's deposits, the estate found written notes that Wade wrote and that he'd never denied under oath, talking about my story of abuse and its effects will make me relatable/relevant. This is all about being relevant in his eyes. And it's frustrating to see people take him for face value without doing any kind of research, any kind of background check. And it's hurtful.
If you want to see more stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.